In the beginning of May, I challenged you to learn something new. And in this video, we're going to look at the best submissions. The first shout out goes to today's video sponsor, Skillshare. It's an online learning community with thousands of different classes covering any possible topics. And to my surprise, there's a lot of CG and VFX related classes there. And in today's video, we will see some works that used Skillshare as a knowledge source. I myself found a couple of classes I would like to complete. Character design is definitely something I'll be exploring more, but I also spent some more time and found some Houdini classes on Skillshare. These classes would definitely help someone who is willing to learn Houdini to start. Apart from that, I'm pretty sure all of you seen Unreal Engine demo, the version 5, which was kind of mind-blowing, and I'm sure a lot of people are keen to try it out and see what it's capable of. And despite Unreal Engine 5 won't be available until end of next year, you can start learning Unreal Engine 4, which is also capable of delivering pretty realistic cinematics already. I found this Unreal Engine for Total Beginners class on Skillshare. What's amazing is that it will make you familiar with the engine and comfortable under 4 hours. If you are already familiar with this engine, there are more advanced classes covering Unreal Engine on Skillshare. If you would like to explore Skillshare too, join the membership for $15 a month or $8.50 a month if you're joining annual membership. Also, the first 1,000 of my subscribers clicking the link in the video description will get 2 months free of premium membership. I want to remind you that there were no strict rules. Participants were allowed to create whatever computer graphics they want, but it had to be animated, not just a still. Same as in previous challenge, we will go from the bottom of the list. But all the works featured in this video are shortlisted. If you want to see all submissions, there is a spreadsheet link in the video description. I found that iPad is the most convenient tool to review all the submissions, same as last year. First work comes from Alexander Konovalov. Alexander created a bonsai tree in Houdini and rendered it with Redshift, and this is what he was learning. Daniel Zerbi was learning motion tracking, dynamics and animation. Quite lovely results. Nice and almost perfect tracks. My daughter really liked the smiley faces. Daniel used Rhino, C4D and Octane. I'm wondering what you used Rhino for in this. And Daniel didn't specify the learning source for this. Brendan Regan was practicing animation and MantaFlow in Blender. The main learning source is YouTube. I have to admit, this second shot is what sold this work to me. That's a badass shot. Well done, mate. Next work comes from Lewis, just Lewis, who was practicing compositing and tracking. Lewis haven't specified any learning sources or the software he used, but the work is quite lovely, covering the most popular topic at the moment. Good job. Next work from Pavel Filevsky, who was practicing PF track and dynamics in Maya. And again, the same topic, some abstract motion graphics. The virus is attacking the dancing dude. Really clean tracks, nice, I like it. Next work, Velislav Slavov. I remember your name from Razor Challenge. A lovely drone shot with jar of fireflies again. The drone does some quite cool tricks. I also like the pebbles flying away in the beginning as the drone takes off. That's cool. Vyacheslav was practicing rigging in Espresso in Cinema 4D and animation in general, and no learning resources specified. Next work by David Silka, who was practicing some destruction within Maya using N-particles, some fluids and Bifrost. David destroyed a car. If you want a tip, mate, I think your smoke scale is off, but overall, really good practice. Next work from Alessandro Spalletti. Clearly Instagram-oriented work. I like the realism of this. I like the reflections on the car. They are super clean and sexy, which makes this work look really realistic. Alessandro was learning animation in general, and his main learning source was YouTube. Next work from Pascal Garten, who was learning how to create a human in 3D, animating him and placing him in a real footage. Using Blender and Adobe Fuse, Pascal replaced himself in the shot, so it looks like he's doing a moonwalk, which is pretty cool, I think. The reason this work got shortlisted is because of the amount of work that went into this. Pascal scanned his own head to make the character look like himself, so there was a lot into this. I only wish, Pascal, you had a better camera to do all that stuff that you're doing. Next work is from Bui Hong Kong. Bui was learning V-Ray and environment design in general. He was inspired by one of the Beeple's works with astronaut covered with flowers. He wanted to create something around Mother Nature topic. The main learning source for Bui was environment tutorials on YouTube, and there is also a link to a specific one in the spreadsheet. Bui used Maya and V-Ray. Next work comes from Digital Gear. However, I doubt it's a name. There are actually two submissions. There is a big story about Zack Snyder. In this submission, unfortunately, I don't have time or opportunity to tell the whole story. That was pretty cool. So Digital Gear, whoever you are, was learning Blender, using Blender Guru's tutorials on YouTube. It's pretty cool. The second work especially have that cinematic feel to it. Next work comes from Thomas Albus, who was learning rigging and animating, texturing and rendering, and smoke simulations. The software used was Blender, Cycles and After Effects. No learning source specified, unfortunately. There's definitely good style in this, but I particularly like how it ended. That's clever and that's funny. I really like it. Next work is from Igor Sokolovsky, who was learning Marvelous Designer. There are a few shots in here that are really well made. I like the look of it, I like the realism of it. The clothing itself is fantastic. Quite cool stuff done there. Igor used Marvelous Designer, Cinema 4D and Redshift. Next work is from Belamonte, no name. And unfortunately, Belamonte haven't specified what exactly he was learning, but considering the nature of the work, I think it was tracking and compositing or something along those lines. Quite creative work, good interaction of 3D elements with real world. Pretty cool, I like it. Learning inspirations were YouTube and Google, and the software used was PFTrack, 3D Max, Mocha Pro and After Effects. Next work comes from Ivan Kalmeta. Quite creative stuff going on here, a lot of kind of storytelling and idea in it about the phone and super abilities of a smartphone. There was a lot of tracking, a lot of compositing. During the creation of this piece, Ivan learned Nuke, Houdini and Maya. Also, he was practicing destruction and tracking. The learning source was YouTube and Matt Skanitsky's tutorials in particular. Overall, there was Premiere Pro used, After Effects, Nuke, Houdini and Maya. That's pretty cool stuff. Next work comes from Jordan Land, who was learning to create infinite loops in Cinema 4D. I think you succeeded. This shape bends the mind. Actually, to confess, I have no idea how these things are done, but Jordan left a specific tutorial in the spreadsheet under this video. Next work is from Chaglar Iser. Excuse me, sir, I don't know how to pronounce your name, so I hope it was correct. Chaglar was learning scene optimization without quality loss, so he reduced his render times from 26 minutes to 7 minutes following Blender Guru's tutorials. Obviously, he was using Blender and rendered everything with cycles. Really lovely atmosphere in here. I love the idea. I'm a big fan of libraries myself, and this one is a really creative one, really calm atmosphere. If you want a tip, mate, try linear camera movements. Don't do that Bezier kind of in and out stuff with camera, or cut the cameras earlier. You disconnect shots from each other. If the movement of the cameras is linear, then every next shot is a logical kind of continuation of the previous one. That way the camera work will feel consistent. Don't do that. Camera has to move consistently, and next shot has to move consistently. No abruptions. Next work comes from Kion Buzar, who was learning motion tracking.
Alone.
This is more of a storytelling work, and there is a minimal amount of CG work in this. I decided to still feature it because there's a lot of storytelling in here. Quite interesting idea.
Being alone, it's the next big thing. Weakness. A blight.
Kion was using CG Matter and Jan Hilbert's Blender tutorials on YouTube and done his stuff in Blender.
You don't have to be alone, because you're not alone.
There is tracking and 3D letters in the end.
So what is it? Are you alone?
I would generally say this does not really qualify for the challenge, mate. You're a cheeky banana. But I respect the effort you've put in the story itself. Next work comes from Jitin Assisi, who was learning rigging and animation. Unfortunately, no learning sources specified, no software specified. There's a lot of video here. The storytelling is good, the idea is good.
Is there a beginning and an end? Or is everything connected in one endless loop?
So you were animating the astronaut dancing?
Columbia, Houston, UHF comm check. Columbia, Houston, UHF comm check.
Next work comes from Akshay Dey, who was learning modeling, texturing, lighting and simulations in Blender. So the idea is that the lockdown lasts for 10 years. There is a war outside, but people are doing their regular stuff because they are not allowed to leave since now. The execution of this is pretty interesting, that parallax effect. I guess you are doing some projection mapping. That's pretty cool. Cool idea, cool execution. The quality is not top, but it's cool. I really like that one. Next work comes from Evgeny Mararo. Evgeny was learning from Grayscale Gorilla tutorials, and he was inspired by Zach King and his effects. So the first part was done in After Effects, and then he introduced some 3D in there. Pretty cool, you definitely got Zach King kind of feel in this. Good job, mate. Next work comes from Ilya Yurchenko, who was learning render optimization in Octane as well as Turbulence FD and Substance Painter. The work was rendered in Cinema 4D with Octane, and the main learning sources were YouTube and Google. It's really clean, really neat. What I would do is I would add some details to the textures. Apart from that, it's quite cool. Next work comes from Harry Kirby, who was learning modeling, texturing and tracking. Harry was learning from CG Cookie tutorials for modeling, and he says he was using my pirate ship tutorial. It was the first tutorial I've ever made, but he translated the knowledge from Cinema 4D to Blender and also used Nuke. If you remember from last challenge, I really love underwater scenes and atmospheres. That's really cool. Next work comes from Nuclear Designs. I don't think it's a name either. So Nuclear Designs was learning C4D camera tracking and Substance Painter for the robot, mainly using YouTube tutorials. Overall, C4D with Redshift was used and comp done in Fusion. And now we're getting to the next level of the green, which means these works were evaluated as higher end works. Jake Wong was learning lighting, texturing, animation and dynamics, mainly using Blender Guru tutorials on YouTube. Everything was rendered using cycles in Blender. Feels like a 3D scan, not a model. I mean, it's lovely, lovely atmosphere. I like this one. Next work comes from Minted Sergeant, who was learning compositing in Fusion and Houdini. I definitely like Lebrov ROM. That's good. There's also good editing, good story in this one. Minted Sergeant didn't use free resources, he used Pluralsight and Skillshare, who is a sponsor of today's video. There is definitely that adventurous, lovely atmosphere in this work. I really love it. Good thing is that all the unrealism is hidden by those overlays with old grain, old film effect on it. Overall, for this work, Houdini, Blender and Fusion were used. Next work comes from Beto Mendes, who was learning environments and Cinema 4D. Beto was exploring C4D classes on Skillshare. I really love the atmosphere of that. As the quality is not top-notch, there's a bit of noise in the water. But what I think would be absolutely fantastic to do with this atmospheric shot is to make it look like a painting. I think that would be a full, really high-end piece by itself. I really like the atmosphere. Really cool. Next work comes from Joe Constanti, who was learning DAZ and Substance Painter. Joe was mainly learning from YouTube and Google. This is a really clean renders, would be an amazing fashion masterpiece. I can see some brands using that. I love the crystals, I love the clean look of this. That mannequin sitting there, it's really cool, really good. Overall, Daz, marvelous designer for clothing obviously, and Substance Painter were used. Next work is from Berk Budal. Who was learning modeling, sculpting, animation, simulation and shading, mainly using Flip Normals, VFX Central and Insidium tutorials on YouTube. This is a pretty cool, really stylized piece that could as well be a music video for some artists. I really love the details in her head. I love details. I love details where they are, where they fit, if that makes sense. You have a good sense of style, mate. I like it. Like it a lot. Tarun Joseph was learning 3D projection mapping in Nuke. Tarun says he mainly used YouTube as a learning source. It's a really well done job in here, mate. if you would allow me to give you a tip. The background, the green screen had to be further away from your talent, and your talent lit from the front. That way she would fit your final target scene much better. So you have a really bright, kind of warm and pleasing sunset in there.
Cut.
But she, in fact, doesn't have that light source. So consider this next time. Otherwise, really cool. Next work is from Lincoln Levy, who was learning Redshift. It is said that Lebrov lighting techniques were used as a source knowledge, but I think some more resources were used as well, because it was all done in Maya with Redshift, with Substance and After Effects. Some shots in here are controversial, but some shots are really killer shots. What I can tell for sure is that you have a strong directing talent. That's 100%. Really well done, mate. Next work is from Morris Caligari, who was learning modeling, texturing, procedural animation for fish. It's a really super stylized work. I love the look. It's so warm and nostalgic, I would say. It feels like one of those binoculars from, well, it was in USSR they were made, when you were looking into them and there was a 3D picture in them. It's super cool. I really like that one. Next work is from Tian Lu. Crazy amount of work went into this. I know how hard it is to create a city with traffic, with all that stuff. I really like it. Everything is super dynamic. There's humor in it when you reveal that the car is actually driving itself. Tian modeled the Tesla himself, the buildings himself, everything himself, because it was what he wanted to learn, modeling the city, car, signs, everything. Also lighting, texturing, rigging the car, everything was learned here. No learning resources specified, but it was done in Blender. I am amazed by the amount of work you done, mate. It's really cool. Next work comes from Anh Quan Nguyen. Pretty interesting cyberpunk city with traffic and stuff. So Anh was learning AI rotoscoping and fusion compositing. I have to admit that it's a pretty cool thing, because I wasn't aware of this. Anh used Epsync tutorials and my Fusion linear workflow tutorial. So Epsync is AI software. You submit a couple of post-produced frames to it, and then it does the work for you for the rest of the footage, which is really cool. So what he did is he post-produced one frame where he cut himself out from original drone footage and put the green screen behind, and then feeded that to AI, and the AI cut him out for the rest of the video. The amount of work in this and the idea and clever kind of thinking process behind it is amazing. It's cool. The editing is cool. The idea is there. I enjoyed this one a lot. Next work is from Piotr Kashmirek, who was learning new Blender Fluid Simulator, Manteflow and texturing. No learning resources specified, but it was done in Blender. I have to say the realism in this one is mind-bending. Despite Piotr was concerned about the liquid simulation, yeah, it might not be the most realistic, but mate, environment that you did, it's so cool. The realism is there. This should be your strong suit. It's amazing what you did there. Next work is from Beniamino Vitagliano, who was learning X particles, mainly from Skillshare, YouTube, and Grayscale Gorilla X particles course. It was done in Cinema 4D, rendered with Redshift, comped with Mu. This little boat here, that's super cool. It's so real. Photorealism is there, I love it. Really nice experiments that Beniamino made. We're now moving to top 10 works. The first one in this section is Chris Paragon, who was learning compositing. Quite neat looks and textures of the headphones, lovely lighting, lovely movements, particles, dusts. Chris was referencing really high-end product commercials and wanted to recreate the same bokeh, same kind of dust particles floating around, same movements in his works, and I think, mate, you succeeded. That's definitely an invaluable experience for you, and the result is showing that. Well done. Next work is from Ilya Orlov, who was learning Cinema 4D and After Effects. Megascans used, which is nice. I see you used volumes in Cinema 4D to reveal the ship itself. Realism is there, idea is there, everything is there. The smoke sim in the end is not the best. Consider X Particles beta releases, the latest ones. They allow procedural vertex maps to be applied to any geometries. That would allow you to hide that chunky volume that you had before the camera went to the rock, and gradually beautifully morph it into your final ship. Anyways, just Google vertex maps and how to use them. X Particles just allow more kind of advanced vertex map workflows. Next work comes from Roman Baychuk, who was learning rigging, character animation, and espresso.
Yeah. Fine, let's get started.
So this is a cool explanatory video for game console blaster. It's like a remote control or something like that. Pretty cool approach. He told me that this project came in the same day as I announced the challenge, so he was learning all of that and then submitted it to the challenge. So it's win-win, mate. You got featured in this video, and I hope the client is happy, because I would be happy. That looks cool. Roman also kindly left a direct link to the tutorials he used on Plural site. Overall, C4D and Octane with Turbulence FD and After Effects were used. Next work is from Daniil Baurov, who wanted to learn 3D after a lot of 2D experience. I have to stop right there and confess, Daniil, I couldn't resist to use some of the shots from your work as the cover for this video. It's cool. It's really stylized motion graphic-y stuff going on here. I love the colors. I don't particularly like the movements because my comments from previous works applies here. Camera movements, guys, linear camera movements in the sequence, don't disconnect your shots. Other than that, it's a superb work, considering it's your first time in 3D after 2D experience, mate. Daniil also kindly posted some direct links to the resources he used to learn this stuff, and overall C4D Octane with After Effects were used. Next work is from Igor Bitine, who was learning ZBrush techniques and Cinema 4D rigging. It's a strong cinematic work. In shots, in color schemes, in darkness, because the initial idea was horror. You definitely achieved that goal. All of this stuff is rendered in Octane, and Igor used Skillshare again to learn this stuff. You have big potential, mate. The creature is amazing. And now, finally, we're getting to top 5 guys. Ivan Grigoryuk, who was learning lighting, compositing, and deepfake. That's something new. Deepfake is when you're replacing someone's face. This is a totally badass work. Everything is in here. Framing, composition, everything is really good. I particularly like the beauty shots of the car are amazing. The deepfake is top-notch, mate. This definitely looks like Elon. I don't know. I hope they've seen it. It's really cool. Ivan unfortunately didn't specify any software he used, render engines, nothing, and didn't specify where he learned all this stuff from. Next work in the list is from Naim Unal, who was learning Blender and Octane. That's an unusual combo. And again, some really strong cinematic atmosphere here. I guess it's the battlefield. It's definitely shots from the movie made. Naim mainly learned from Blender Guru on YouTube. And I already mentioned that it was done in Blender with Octane. It's amazing, amazing shots. Next work is from Ahmad Mirhi, who was learning. Ahmad was learning rigging, character animation, and match moving. This work is fantastically done. The character design, the rigging, everything is so cool and funny. It was done in Blender and graded in Premiere Pro, I guess. No learning resources specified, but the work is in top 5. So well done, mate. I really like that. Next work is from Andrea Rospi, who was learning character design, modeling, and rigging.
I don't ask for much time. My fleeting existence cannot be wasted. Life is full of a multitude of opportunities. Some of them are so important they can change
Cinema 4D and Redshift. It's not the first shots I shortlisted this work for, it's other shots.
Life itself will pass by as quickly.
So the character design, some shots are so realistic they just lack some quality, but I assume you don't have enough render power to finalize it. That final shot is a killer, mate. So well done, it could as well be a movie, mate.
Live your lives, my siblings.
If you would allow me one tip, the beginning stars, if you would have shots like that, then stars wouldn't move at all because they're thousands of light years away. There would be no parallax effect. If there would be a star nearby that ship, it would be so huge that the ship would be that small. And the final work I will show you today is from Paulo Neves, who was learning ASAS workflow using Quixel stuff and using Speed Tree to model trees. There is some ground destruction going on. Overall, C4D, Octane, Quixel and After Effects were used, and the learning resource is YouTube, which means it's free, the free knowledge. If you want to learn CG and VFX, one more time, knowledge is everywhere, it's accessible to anyone. They may well spend for you. I'm amazed by some shots. I learned something new from all the messages you sent me, all the stories you told me, all the processes you described. Even I found some new softwares to think about. It's really cool. Oh my goodness, what are you doing with me? The only regret I have now is that unfortunately we don't have any big and decent prizes. But I hope my mentorship and our future communications are worth it. I will see what I can do. It's not up to me, it's up to sponsors, but maybe we will arrange another challenge or competition or something like this year. If you would look in the spreadsheet, there are only about 70 submissions overall. Last year, when there was a laptop as a prize, there were almost 270 submissions or something like that. So obviously a big reward makes a difference in terms of amount of submissions. The guys in top 10, I really believe there's a bright future ahead of you, and I wish you all the best. Top 5 winners, I will be sending the invitations to our Padawan Slack chat right after I publish this video. I'm reminding you that Padawan membership is a subscription level on this channel where we have our own dedicated chat with the guys participating in this level. I give my tips, advice, and we discuss different topics all the time. The whole point is that I'm accessible 24/7 through that Slack chat. If you want to be a part of mentorship, click join under the video. I will be featuring top 10 works on my Instagram account, but overall I encourage you to go and explore the social media of the guys, because a lot of inspiration can be found on their pages. If the social media links were provided, they will be listed in the spreadsheet under the video. I appreciate your time a lot, guys. Amazing results. I hope you're all happy with the knowledge you got and how you spent May. I will see you soon. Peace. I already wrapped the studio and realized that I had to learn something new myself. As I mentioned in my last vlog, I was stacked with work during the whole May, so I didn't learn any character design. But last Thursday I started my first full Houdini scene assembly. It means that from A to Z the scene will be done in Houdini. I only have drafts so far. It actually is rendering right now. It was rendering behind me as I was reviewing all your works. I only used Houdini for sims and things like that. I never assembled the full scene in Houdini itself. So this one will be fully assembled, built, simulated and rendered within Houdini. That's new for me. Here you go. I know I'm a slacker. Oh, come on.